Hey, Joe here from Home Studio Corner. If you are watching this video and you haven't seen the previous video where I laid out this specific mixing challenge, go ahead and stop this video and go back. It'll be linked below in the description. This video won't make a lot of sense if you haven't gone back and watched the other one and also done the challenge. Then you can come back and watch this video. So here is my mix of my song, It's Okay. So this is the actual session for that project that I did, it was, I guess, a year and a half, 2 years ago. And this right here is the acoustic guitar that I gave you to mix. So let's just take a quick listen. We'll start with, I'll play you the final mixed version of this song, and then we'll go backwards and kind of show you what I did to get there. So here we go, play.
Running from your shadow, but it goes wherever you go.
So one of the challenges of fingerstyle acoustic guitar, if you don't get close enough to the guitar with the microphones, you don't get a very full sound. But if you do get close to get a full sound, sometimes that can come with some muddiness that you have to deal with. And it's a compromise. You can either back the microphones away and have less low end, but it might not sound full enough, or you can move the microphones closer and make it nice and full with the risk of it being a little bit muddy and having to do some adjusting with EQ. I opted for the second one on this EP anytime I was doing fingerstyle guitar, and I'm glad I did because I think it worked out well. However, when you pull in the tracks yourself and go to start mixing, you may notice it's kind of boomy sounding against everything else. Here's that raw guitar by itself. Let's listen to it one more time. And what I want you to do is, even if you've done this challenge already, I'm going to walk you through how I think about this. What do we like about the sound, and what do we not like about the sound? What needs to change to get from this sound to the sound that I want, the sound that I hear in my head? Let's listen one more time. Two things come to mind. One, I'm missing some clarity. I would like to hear those higher frequencies, the sound of the fingers on the frets and things like that. I want to hear that more clearly. And also, I want to tame some of that low-end rumble that's there. I want it to be full. I don't want it to be thin and wimpy, but it needs to be less boomy than it is right now. So my approach to mixing, especially to using EQ, is to be subtractive. Take things away first, and then boost the things that you like. Remove the things you don't like, and then if you still need to boost some things that you do like, go for it. That's just the way I approach it. It's not the right way necessarily. It's not the only way for sure, but it's the way that works well for me and gets me results time and time again. So let's open up my session. Let me show you what I did. So here's the EQ that I used on this acoustic guitar. So there's a lot going on here. There's 5 different EQ moves, and I'm just going to kind of walk you through each one. So the first thing is, let's see, I'm going to turn off these. First thing I did was just roll off a little of the low end. So anytime you use acoustic guitar, there's probably going to be just some craziness down in the low frequencies. It's boomy. It doesn't really help anything. It sounds like this. It's just whoa, 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 whoa. Almost never useful, especially when the guitar's already sounding kind of boomy. So the first thing I did was a gentle, 12 dB per octave, high-pass filter, rolling everything off below 55 hertz. Doesn't make a huge difference sonically, but it just makes sure you don't have any kind of surprising low-end sub-rumble there. When you turn that on, you just feel it's kind of took off that lowest octave of low end, which is nice. So the next thing I did, there's a lot of times on acoustic guitar, there's one frequency that kind of jumps out regardless of what's being played. Listen to it here. There's kind of a hoo, 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 hoo. Ian Shepherd calls it the hooting frequency. That's a horrible Ian Shepherd impression, but the hooting, it kind of makes this hoo, hoo sound. It's not the low end. It's not 60 hertz. It's usually more around 100 hertz. And as you can see, one of my frequency bands, one of my EQ bands is at 104 hertz, and I've done a huge cut of 16 dB. So what I'm going to do here is boost it so you can hear what the frequency is that I'm listening for, and then we can adjust from there. just kind of this boom, 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 boom. But it's a little bit higher, especially on that 4 chord that I'm playing. It comes through even more. But it's kind of consistent throughout the song. If we go throughout different sections of the song, we're still going to hear that kind of hooting frequency. Let's go to the chorus over here. Right there, especially on that note, it just builds up a lot. Part of it's because it's the note, part of it is just the boominess of the track. But it only comes in on that note. So if I just go and remove that frequency by, a huge number of decibels, does it change the overall tone of the guitar in a bad way, or does it just get rid of that rumble on that second chord that I'm playing? Let's find out. That second chord now sounds beautiful. Listen to it without the EQ. When it goes to that boom note, it's like it goes boom, 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 boom. And when it goes to that 4, it gets super, super loud without the EQ. There's just this big, like, pillowy, boomy sort of sound. We turn that EQ on, again, 104 hertz cut by almost 16 dB with a really narrow Q, narrow width. It now sounds natural. Going from one chord to the next, they feel very similar. It just sounds like a dude playing a guitar and switching notes. Love that. That's one of the byproducts of miking it fairly close. Sometimes certain notes, the way it just interacts with everything in the mic in the room, really gets boomy. Well, there's your there's your solution to that problem, and it works really, really well. All right, the next thing is I'm thinking we've done a lot of work already. Here's the before. Here's the after. It's not quite as boomy as it was before. Still a little bit of low end there that I want to take care of. So I put in another wider EQ. You can see here, this is just kind of a nice wide little dip that I'm doing kind of in between the low pass, the high pass filter, and this notch here. That's around 87 hertz. So it's just those general low frequencies now. I'm kind of, if you're thinking about this is a very specific frequency I'm trying to surgically remove, this is more of a general group of frequencies, the lows in general, I'm just trying to tame a little bit. So I cut that by exactly 2 dB. Here's what those frequencies sound like. That's just more of a consistent, steady rumble to the guitar. So if we cut that by just a few dB, it really cleans up without losing its warmth. It's a lot more clearer in the low end. Let's go no EQ, and then we'll turn the EQ back on. I'm going to do that again. Listen to how the first version without the EQ gives you a headache. I am literally developing a headache right now from listening to those low frequencies. I've spent so many years mixing that those frequencies give me a headache if there's too much of them. It's kind of a blessing. And then when I engage the EQ, it's like the headache goes away, and now we're suddenly just listening to this nice, pretty acoustic guitar. Now, I've done all of this in solo to demonstrate kind of the sounds that I wanted to get. Obviously, we need this to sound good against the rest of the tracks in the mix as well. But we don't necessarily know. This is kind of how I want the acoustic guitar to sound anyway. Now's a good time to check it against the rest of the song. Let's see what it sounds like with everything else. Let's go back to the beginning of this chorus.
Don't you know it's okay?
Once we introduce everything else, a nice clear vocal, those cute little kind of different acoustic guitars on the sides, I'm not getting as much out of this guitar as I want. I'm not hearing it as clearly. It's not a volume thing. It's there. It's present. I'm just not getting the clarity that I want, or just even the detail that I want. So one of the things I did is I went up to about 5.5K and just did a little boost, about 4 dB of boost up there, just to give me some extra clarity. Let's listen to what that sounds like. Just the sound of my fingers on the strings, that little kind of plucking sound, is a little more clear. It's going to cut through just a little bit more with that boost. Now, you may have had the same idea on your mix, but you might have been tempted to do something like this. I hear that all the time. I did a video recently on how we tend to want to overdo things. Let's do a boost. Okay, 20 dB ought to do the trick, and it's just way too much. It's too much of a good thing. There was a need for a boost there, but that was just too much.
Don't you know it's okay?
So we're really close. There's one more EQ move that I did, and it's right here in like the low mids, kind of in the 250, right, just under 250 hertz. This frequency here, which happens to be centered around one of the notes that I'm playing that's almost in every chord that I'm playing that was standing out a little bit too much. Listen to that bum, bum, bum. Listen to that note in the guitar without the EQ on. And now if I accentuate it a little bit, it's kind of giving me a headache, similar to, it's like the big brother of, we had this headache frequency down here, and now up here at 250, 240, we're having the same problem. Down here was at 80 hertz, up here is at 248. That's a multiple, what is it, times 3 of that, or something like that. I don't know if it's a multiple or not. I'm not about doing the math. I don't care about that. But it just was bothering me a little bit. So I decided, let's just do a wide-ish cut and see what that sounds like on this guitar that's already working pretty well. And here's what I got. Still sounds like the same guitar, but there's a little less of kind of muddiness there. I'm going to turn this on and off so you can hear the difference. It's in the frequency right in there. It's not a huge problem. If you had just submitted your mix like this, I think it works just fine. But there's something about that little extra frequency right in here that just seems to be cloudying things. Is cloudying a word? It's making things kind of cloudy. And by cutting it, we make the guitar sound a little more clear. A lot of times the 200 to 500 hertz range on an acoustic guitar isn't super crucial. There's a lot of tone there, but you can do a cut there to really allow the lows and the highs to come out a little bit better. Now, could you argue that this still has a little bit of boom to it? Yes, you could, and I'm okay with that. I want it to have some warmth to it. I want it to have some bass to it, because there's not a bass on this project or this EP, but I still also want it to have some clarity and to not be muddy. So big before and after. Here's the before.
Don't you know?
And here's the after.
Don't you know?
Now, if you downloaded the files, you can also do that before and after, and now you've seen how I've EQ'd it, and you can kind of take on that as well. The one other thing, this isn't completely fair, I ran all the acoustic guitars through an acoustic guitar bus, and I just took the entire bus, and I had an EQ that was cutting around that 240 hertz a little bit more. So all in all of my acoustics felt like there was a little much in that mid-range. 240 to 350, around 250 to 350 or so, is a magical range for creating and taking away warmth without affecting the lower end warmth that's there. So listen to how this has kind of all the guitars together have kind of a boominess that's not a low end boom, it's just like too much warmth. And now as I pull this EQ down, listen to how it doesn't affect the low end at all, but it just cleans things up tremendously without making anything sound exaggerated. That's the final piece of the puzzle that really brought it together. So in essence, I put another EQ and cut a little bit more at about I guess it's around 240 or so, over all of my guitars. So it's not completely fair. The mix that you have in the files that I gave you has that EQ on the rest of the guitars, but on the one guitar that's unmixed, you may want to add a little bit more of a cut another 2 dB or so at 250, fairly wide cut, to just do that final little piece there that cleans everything up. It's really, really fun. That final piece of the puzzle works really, really well. All right, that's it. I hope this made sense. I hope you took part of the challenge. If you didn't and you've seen this and now you really are kind of excited to go do it yourself, go back to the other video. The files are still there. I will leave them there. It's all free. You don't have to enter an email address. Just click the link and download them and have fun. And I hope you get better. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate you here. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you want to know more about mixing, you can check out my 5-step mix guide. That does require an email address, but it's also free at 5stepmix.com. That's it from me. See ya.